I need... Oh. Still hasn't affected it. Actually, whilst we're waiting, I should introduce myself. My name's Stephen Wilkinson, President of the Royal Town Planning Institute. I'm sure you said that, but I didn't have my translation on. I'm just going to say a few words about the Royal Town Planning Institute. Describe very briefly, because you've had a lot of that this morning, some of the challenges that we face, and then introduce our paper, our Horizons paper, which we produced in 2014 to mark our centenary. The Royal Town Planning Institute has 24,000 members spread across the globe, although the majority are work in the United Kingdom. And we're a practitioner body, and we're a learned society. And as, in that respect, actually, we really welcome working with you and events like this, and working with other planning bodies across Europe and globally as well. We do welcome that. I think in terms of the world, there's always been global challenges around the need for affordable housing, global challenges around the need to get the right infrastructure in place to ensure that people can get to work, to ensure that there's the right places for people to be educated and have all the other social services which make a sustainable society. But over the last 20, 30 years, we've begun to recognise that there are a larger, more significant number of issues tied up with pollution, tied up with climate change, and tied up with us, really, the demographic time bomb. I think moving on to that, which is you can go back actually, sorry. Go back. Back. That's it. And moving on, because I've got a bit of a demographic headache. I mean, world population is set to rise from 7.4 billion to around 10 billion by the end of this century. Within Europe, EU's population is set to rise from 507 million to around 530 million in the next 40 years. And within the United Kingdom, our population is set to rise from around 68 million to towards, I think, 90 million in the next 40 years. So there's significant challenges there. And within that, the world's, the median age of the population is increasing. And Japan is currently the only country with a population of around more than, around population at age 60, it's about 30% of the total population. By the end of this century, or sorry, the next 20 years, that population will increase significantly, that number of countries, to around 60, 70 countries across the developing world. So, there's significance there. So we've got, a rising population, but an aging population, which really, I think, lacks probably the resources to address some of the significant challenges that we're faced. Next slide. I think pointed here. That's it. I think some of you may recognise this. This is a slide of Budapest, flooding in Budapest. I think this wasn't just a one-off event last year, and it's increasingly becoming an increasing issue. And as the world needs more resources to support a rising population, the climate change is taking those resources away. We're having issues around increasing in desertification, with the spread of deserts into areas which are currently semi-arid. And global temperatures are rising, continue to rise. And the Paris Climate Change Agreement has sought to try and reduce those to just a rise of 2 degrees between now and the end of the century. And that's a significant challenge given the spread of growth and spread of population increase. Also, it affects countries which are highly urbanised, because the amount of land which can be cultivable is decreasing significantly. But also there's knock-on effects as well with climate change related to the increase in the number of heat-related deaths. I think in 2003 there were around 20,000 deaths in Paris in August of that year. And also it's becoming an increasing feature of Western and developed world. But another problem as well is traffic pollution. And according to the World Health Organization, 7 million people died as a result of air pollution in 2012. And nearly 6 million of those were in Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific Basin. And vehicle emissions make up for around 70% of all air pollution. And clearly we've got to start looking at, whether the car can really work for us. In London, the London Mayor is about to introduce a T charge. That's on top of the C charge, congestion charge. And the T charge is trying to establish and reinforce an ultra-low emission zone across parts of Central Europe. And the T applies to toxicity. And we all know about the problems of diesel cars. We all know the problems that certain manufacturers have manufactured emissions figures on diesel cars. But the life of the diesel engine, I think, is coming to an end. Great. Urban sprawl, how we live. This is an example of, I think, Morganton County in North Carolina. Typical development, sort of thing that Herbert J. Gans, I think, used to write about in Westgate West. So you've got large detached properties in an acre or a bit more than that of land. It's the American dream. But really, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare which is coming to haunt us. Because developments like this are often correlated with high rates of obesity, traffic fatalities, increase in ozone pollution, lack of social capital, too many vehicle miles, and a lack of physical activity. And really, this sort of development really questions whether we can actually carry on living like this. And then moving on to this. Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, McDonald's, the Golden Arches. Hands up, who's eaten there? Have you all eaten there in these places? Now, if that was in the UK, there'd be a forest of hands, actually. You're obviously very good people, actually. But we've got health problems being exacerbated by lifestyle choices. And childhood obesity is one of the most serious public health concerns facing us. And around, I think in 2010, 42 million children under the age of 5 are overweight. That includes 35 million children in developing countries. And these people are often poorer. So you've got an exacerbation of problems, of deprivation. Health, obesity is linked to what we classify as the index of multiple deprivation. And the UK alone, we've got children aged between 2 and 15. 30% of them are either overweight or obese. In London, that figure rises to 40%. But you can look at me, I'm probably an exception, I think. And now we've got planning authorities in London which are introducing controls over fast food, convenient food shops and takeaways within 600 metres of schools, just to reduce the dependency that you have children just rushing out to get quick, cheap food. But it's okay. They may be the problems that we have, but the RTPI is really, through a series of publications, it's Horizons publications, we've produced five of these. And the first one was translated by Roland. Is Roland still here? Thank you. And his team. And we really do welcome that approach. And they really set an agenda really for, they identify the challenges and really identify ways which we think through effective planning, better planning, these matters can be addressed. So the first paper, which was actually launched in 2014, but launched here last year, was Thinking Spatially. And that looks at the importance of places. The second one was future-proofing society, looking at why planners need to be at the forefront of responses to climate change. Next one. You got sort of fine art. And the next one was looking at promoting healthy cities. The fourth one was creating economically successful places, why planning is needed in a fast-changing world. And the final one was making better decisions for places. And throughout these, there's a series of common threads. And those common threads are really about the importance of place in decision-making and how, often governments, national governments, regional governments, produce policies. But they have very little, they're never tailored to address problems which have a spatial dimension. And that needs to be redressed. And that's what these papers call for. These papers also call for the integration of policy as well. So, that's I think where planners come in, because we think laterally. We think laterally in how we embrace and look at different policy areas and try to ensure that they have a strong focus on particular places. The papers also look at I suppose they question the benefits of economic growth, and certainly the papers make the case for a stronger case to fully assess against a matrix of environmental factors the impacts of economic growth, because not all economic growth is good, and it needs to be assessed, and whether the agenda set by the World Forum in Quito, the convention in Quito last year, the delivery of sustainable development goals can actually be taken forward to address these sort of matters in a fairly comprehensive way, is something I think we should all be working in. But certainly, the papers really try and focus on a fresh approach to addressing some of the fundamental matters we face, to come up with a better agenda for planning, a more effective agenda. And also the papers seek to advocate for, you could say, the appropriate responses of government to ensure that the right decisions are made at national level, the right decisions are made at the regional level, and the right decisions are made at the local level, to ensure that there's effective delivery. Because without that, there's obviously very little point in having effective planning. And I think, really, I should finish on this note, really, that it's my belief that all civilizations are defined by their town planning. It's their clearest, strongest legacy. I think our legacy will be how we address these changes, and that will define our civilization. Thank you. It's great working with you.